Since 2017, the United States government has released a few reports and fact sheets on its new Indo-Pacific strategy. It's impossible to analyze these texts and the speeches from US government officials because they are largely made of empty phrases. What does it mean to say that the Indo-Pacific strategy, for instance, is going to promote free, fair, and reciprocal trade? Each of these terms, free, fair, and reciprocal, would need elaboration. Their meaning should be defined. But over hundreds of pages, there is simply no explanation of what any of these phrases, such as this one, means. Buried in these meaningless words in the Indo-Pacific strategy is a much deeper, much darker agenda of the US government to use three large Asian states, Australia, India, and Japan, they form the Quad, to isolate and roll back China. There is nothing else to it. The US government has made it very clear that what it finds most objectionable is China's Belt and Road Initiative, which has signed on about 100 countries across the world. The roots of the Belt and Road Initiative, which began in 2013, was to pivot China's reliance upon the markets of the West to other countries and to use China's massive surpluses to build infrastructure in key parts of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. By 2027, Morgan Stanley estimates, despite the coronavirus recession, China will spend about $1.3 trillion on this ambitious construction project. Even Saudi Arabia, a close ally of the United States, has made the Belt and Road Initiative one of the cornerstones of its Saudi Vision 2030 plan. While China has invested $68 billion to build China-Pakistan Economic Corridor that links to the Arabian Sea at the Gwadar port, Saudi Arabia has agreed to invest $10 billion in the port itself. The scale of Chinese investment and the participation of a range of countries with different political identities and commitments is staggering. Put this beside the Indo-Pacific Business Forum in July 2018, which was hosted by the US government. This was held not in Asia, but quite tellingly in Washington, DC. At this forum, the United States bragged that it has spent $2.9 billion through the Department of State and the USAID. It has lined up hundreds of millions of dollars more through its US Millennium Challenge Corporation and the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. If you add up all this money that the US intends to spend for economic projects, it is a fraction of 1% of the Chinese investments. There is simply no appetite in Washington, and this is whether you consider the Trump administration, before that the Obama administration, and possibly a Biden administration. There is no appetite across the board of mainstream American politics with, in the current case, this America First attitude to funnel more money towards investments in the region currently being built by the Belt and Road Initiative. It appears as if the US investments will come with military claims. Nepal is currently in an internal debate over whether it should accept $500 million from a Millennium Challenge Corporation grant. This has to do with building electric power lines. Will this money that comes from the US government, will this money mean that the Nepali government would have to allow US troops into the country and allow the United States to build bases in Nepal? This would be objectionable to the Nepali Communist Party, which is currently the government in Kathmandu. The government is also coming to terms with the discovery of an enormous cache of high-quality uranium in the Mustang region, which borders in Nepal and China. If the US money comes with a US military presence, this will create a serious flashpoint in the Himalayas. We've already seen Indian and Chinese troops clash in the Leh-Ladakh area, the high mountains of the Himalayas. We've seen Indian and Chinese troops come to very near conflict in the northeast of India. If the United States puts pressure on Nepal, this will create further developments in a negative direction for Asia. Unable to outspend the Chinese, the US government is making a rhetorical argument that it has more respect for transparency, human rights, and democratic values than China, which the US says practices repression at home and abroad. These quotes are from a US document called A Free and Open Indo-Pacific. Reading documents such as these requires fortitude. They are plainly rhetorical and nonsensical. It's hard to imagine the United States being transparent with its trade deals. It's hard to imagine the United States being free with countries when we know that it imposes pressure on countries in order to push its own agenda. In May 2018, the US military command was renamed the Indo-Pacific Command. This is a much more clear identification of US policy. The most recent Indo-Pacific Command document is called Regain the Advantage. It comes alongside new hypersonic cruise missiles. The United States, in other words, through its rhetoric, through building up military force and new military technologies, seeks to impose a war on Asia. It is interesting that in all the documents released by the US government and in all the speeches, there is no discussion of the strategy of the US government and its allies in how to contain China. What you have is rhetoric that skates into extremely belligerent territory. We say no war, no conventional war, but also no hybrid war, no war on China. We want peace in Eurasia, peace in the waters around Asia. Thank you very much.